Hello, Martina.
Hello.
It's excellent to have you here on the channel. And, normally maybe that would be on the Talk Python podcast, but since this is such a visual experience, it doesn't really make sense to do an audio version. So we put together this live event, and I think it's going to be fantastic. We'll have a great time talking about it.
Sounds good. Thanks for inviting me, Michael. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it absolutely is going to be fun. And before we get too far into it, give people a chance to just learn a bit about you. Tell everyone about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Martina Pugliese. I am Italian. I live in Scotland. And I've been working in this wonderful field of data science for the last about 10 years or so. But on the side, when I'm too, annoyed at being on a screen all the time and doing Jupyter and Python and whatever, I just like to keep staying in the world of data, but just on pen and paper. So this project came about as just my way of learning something new, exploring something a little bit funky, with nice topics, and doing it with colors and pencils and that kind of stuff. So started a few years ago now, and yeah, keeps going. And some people seem to like it. So, like you, Michael, you conducted me, so apparently you like this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I ran across your work. You're doing data doodling, and it looks a little bit like the visualizations that we're familiar with from data science, but it also looks really creative and different as well. And I just thought, there's going to be a bunch of people out there that this resonates with. We've got a lot of really nice tools for visualizing things in Python in the data science space with Jupyter, all the assorted visualization tools there. But there's just a special realness or intimacy with the data of if you're just these little pictures and little personal touches. And I think people are going to see the work that you've done. You're a great artist as well. Like it's legitimately neat visualizations.
I've been trying to learn for a long time. I'm still a student of D3. My dream is to do very, very
Sure.
cool stuff. Because Python has its limitations when it comes to visualizing data. It's not meant for that, of course. But there's a lot of great libraries, of course, when it comes to kind of scientific vizzing. But yeah, then I was like, yeah, on my free time, I just want to do something else. I don't want to be in front of the screen. So yeah, there's some satisfaction in doing some stuff with your hands,
Yeah, there really is. And like I was saying, there's just different things you can think of in the visuals, like little iconography and just a playfulness to it that maybe it really is a good precursor. So here on the screen we've got an example. This is a graphic that you did when you talked about the different types of pasta in Italy. A very important topic, I'm sure, at the dinner table, right?
Absolutely, super important for us. Yeah. Yeah, this was about, whether the North likes more long formats, things like spaghetti, linguine, that kind of stuff. And the South is the reverse, more short formats, or which region has the best variety, that kind of stuff. So taking the data for this is less trivial than it looks like, than it may seem like. So I think I had to go through Wikipedia lists and just manually double check a lot of things. So that's why it's not necessarily comprehensive. But yeah, just again, doing something funky, having fun, and oftentimes I fail. Stuff doesn't work. I couldn't tell you how many I've got. I keep them, the failed attempts. But
interesting. Yeah. And do these usually have to do with your work projects, or are they outside of that?
Nah, mostly outside. Yeah, I try to keep it on light topics, arts and culture. Food is a favorite.
Music. We're going to talk some music. Yeah,
that kind of stuff. I have a series I do on climate change. It's a topic that I care about. I think a lot of people care about, of course. So that's the least, the more grim part of my doodles, of course. And we're going to see an example of that, I think. But mostly these are light-hearted kind of stuff. Yeah, literature, music, whatever. Yeah.
Excellent. And Where do you get the data from? Is it a lot of work to pull the data together to before you come up with it, or do you just kind of daydream about it and spot check the data, or what's the story before you really start
Yeah,
drawing?
good question. It depends on the card. So normally I come up with an idea. Maybe I'm just having a shower. We're going for a walk. I'm like, yeah, wouldn't it be fun to see whether there is any data about this, say the pasta shape? And then I start looking, and data can come from any sources. Sometimes there is an open data set. It's in a decent format, so I don't have to do much work. Sometimes people offer to give me the data, like in a clean format because they are scraping a website for some other reasons. But more often than not, the data doesn't really exist in a clear format. I just need to source it myself and sort it out and making it then into a pandas data frame and just do all of the analysis. Sometimes you're like, oh, there isn't any signal in this data, so I can't go ahead with that idea. I just need to change course and do something else. That happen a lot of times. So, but yeah, it's just having an idea, trying to see what's available. Of course, it's always public data. Maybe it can be a little scraping sometimes. It can be images data sometimes. So that takes more of some bit of structured work. But yeah, it's all very
Yeah.
simple stuff. It's not big data.
That
It's very very simple, very simple things.
sure, but getting it is can still be pretty tricky. Some nice pandas read CSV action to get some tables, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How many of these do you have now?
Uh, I don't know. 'Cause I have them in a variety of notebooks for like physical notebooks for the bigger ones. And this one, like this Italy chart that you got here, this is like literally what is started like a card. I call them data cards because they are like postcard format. Overall, probably I don't know, something around 50, probably 50, 60, something like that. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
I think one of the things that inspired me when I saw your work here is there's a lot of people out there who are either budding data scientists or maybe they're in a college class and they need data to study. And I mean, how many times can we analyze New York City taxi tipping data for the weekend? You know what I mean? Like there's just certain data sets that just get used over and over and over. And coming up with something creative but bite-sized and not huge. Every one of your projects here seems like it fits pretty well into that.
Yeah, it's my idea is to create aside from just the visualization per se, it's like be more of data storytelling. So I write a piece where I describe what's in there, how I got the data, why I decided to do that, and also then complement it with some context, say maybe a movie, maybe a piece of music or something that goes along with it, so that people that want to read can feel immersed in the journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to look at 5 examples here
Mhm.
in just a minute. But each one of these doodles is accompanied with quite a bit of a write up, right? For
Yeah.
example, I think the first one was, maybe 15 minutes of reading about what you built, and it came with a video to inspire you and all different
Yeah.
things, right? So there's a lot more for people to check out, and I put links to that into the live chat here, and I'll put it in the description later as well. All right, should
Good.
we jump into it and check out a couple of these?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one is Colors of Renoir, the painter. All right. So yeah, just tell us what this one is, and people can get a picture, a sense from this picture of how detailed and interesting these are.
Yeah, so this is the one that you were talking about when you said there's a lot of write up because this was the one that took me the longest ever to do. I recently did another one for another painter, but it's much smaller. So this is showing each line. There's, I think, some 100 lines. Each line is a painting from Renoir. What I've done is using Wikipedia. Yeah, this is enlarged Wikipedia. There's like a page about Renoir's paintings. You can get images from these paintings, which are obviously user contributed. So they will be, these are photographs of people that have visited the works in museums. And these images come from a variety of different cameras or phones or whatever. So there's that element which I'm completely ignoring. However, what I do is take the image and map it via an algorithm class that is called color segmentation. What it does is for each pixel, it will assign it to the nearest color from an existing palette, and the palette is at
Like
the
a
bottom of.
like a color histogram in a sense, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It does it by means of color distances and other things. I didn't do that myself. There's a Python library that does this, which people have written for us. So, and then yeah, that's the palette at the bottom. Red, orange, yellow, that kind of stuff. So for each painting, then I calculate the amount of that color. Literally, again, it's like an histogram, if you wish. So that tells me that the first painting at the top has got a lot of orange and a lot of yellow, and so on. And so you can see visually where did Renoir, according to this palette, which I've chosen amongst the ones available in the library, which comes from academic research, where does this work kind of fit? And you can see there's a lot of orange, there's a lot of yellow. This is mostly backgrounds. Of paintings, but there's also a fair amount of green and blues because Renoir was an impressionist and he painted mostly outdoors. So there's a lot of fields and blue
a
skies.
lot of nature scenes.
Yeah, and on
the
the
lilies
right
and all that.
side, I'm just just mentioning some of the most famous paintings. And obviously, this is in time, meaning you can also see if there is any evolution from his early start in the 1860s until the early 1900s, basically. So you can see that probably he started using more backgrounds by the end of his career. Maybe he was not abandoning, but impressionism was kind of not trendy anymore by that time. So maybe a few things changed in his style.
Yeah. You can definitely see a trend towards more orange and yellow going from 1870 to early 1900s there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But there's a lot of nice ways where you might have a legend or something, but now you're like, right here, I'm pointing at this piece of data and this is what it tells you, and sort of annotating on top of this. This is really nice.
This took me forever, really a long time. Like
when I zoomed in on this and I thought about it here, I was like, how did you get those lines so straight? They're all aligned.
Simple ruler and a good eye, I guess.
Yeah. You don't really notice too much like drift over time, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
So people can check this out, and I'll put the link to it in the description as well for each of the 5 things we're going to discuss. But there's a whole lot more around this one. If you really care about pictures and art, you can go in and see that for sure. Right? Like you said, this has a huge write-up around it.
Yeah, it's explain all the color segmentation, all the details, histograms, and more technical stuff.
All right. How about the world of viruses?
Yeah, this is more on the science side of things. So I did this during the pandemic, surprisingly. So I was like, okay, how many viruses are actually known to the human species, to us? And how many of these actually infect humans? And you realize that it's actually a minority. Most of them affect other living beings. So this comes from a taxonomy, a scientific taxonomy. There's several different attempts at doing a taxonomy from a scientific point of view. I do not know the details. This is very much biology details, but you can download this data. And I think it was in a CSV, good, machine readable format. And from the number of families, I think I looked at the species within each family. I think that's what it was doing, if I remember correctly. So that's what the numbers tell you. Like first, Cyphoviridae, that's the most populated type of family. Yes, this is a family. And then there's things like influenza virus. It's one example of whatever the family is called. And then there's coronaviruses. Of course, COVID-19 was one of them. COVID-19 is the disease. Like HIV, the little silly drawings just symbolize the family. But the most important, the most populated families do not attack humans, if you wish. These are the plant viruses or they attack other animals. So there was trivial learning, but still a learning. And so this is the donut chart. I did that to sum up how many there are. I can remember. of all the viruses currently known, but we do know that actually there's many that we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure
it's
there's viruses
going to
discovered every week. There's some, something people like, oh my gosh, in this weird environment, we discovered
yeah.
something that we didn't initially know about. I really like the little
Yeah, the red
almost
thing
like
is the ring.
microscopic views of the different viruses. It gives you a sense. You got the flanges, and you got this kind, and all these,
Yeah, they're very varied in shapes and forms. It's a fantastic kingdom. It's great. Interesting.
Yeah. This is it's you can't think too much about microbiology in day-to-day life. If you think about, bacteria and viruses, and just you're like, you know what, just you don't see them, it's okay. We don't have to think about it. But it is cool to
Yeah.
every now and then dive into it and see this.
Oh,
This
I
is
love
quite
it.
neat.
I come from science, original background, so I love this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But for me, it gives me a visual framework to think about how many
Yeah.
things are there around us. Um, yeah,
Like,
and
how hard
the red
would
tick is whether they affect humans, insects.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you can see only
Only a portion,
maybe,
yeah.
yeah, maybe 20-30%, something
But some
along
of
those
them are really
lines.
nasty, like Ebola viruses, for example.
Yeah. Amazing. But the ones that do, we've seen they can have a big impact over the
Yeah,
last few
exactly.
years, haven't we?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, these are amazing. How hard would it be to do this in Python? If somebody said, I want you to make this, someone out in the audience said, like, would it be hard to update these? I'm sure it's really hard to update these because they look
Yeah, 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 yeah.
hand-drawn, not digitally drawn. And even if they were, they'd still be hard to update.
I think
But
in
if
Python
someone,
9 would be pretty easy to do.
yeah,
Yeah.
but are there visualizations like this in Python that you think you could, little pictures and annotations and stuff, or is it more?
Annotations, I'm not sure. The donut chart you can definitely do with whatever, like Seaboard.
The chart you could do.
Yeah,
Interesting. But
but the annotations, to be honest, I don't know. I've not explored the area yet. So you tell
yeah,
me.
well,
But I can try.
I
Give
don't.
me an
Yeah,
idea. I should download the newest taxonomy. This was 2020 probably when I've done this. So
yeah.
I'm sure numbers have changed.
I'm sure they
Yeah.
have a little bit. Indeed. Cool. All right. Moving away from biology,
Yes.
off to food.
Oh yeah, New England food
Uh-huh.
of the 1800s.
From 1910. When I was looking at
1910.
this, yeah, I was thinking, now we've got, I don't know, recipes.com or whatever. You can just go search stuff and learn about it. And we have restaurants that are very diverse in different backgrounds. You can just go and, go out to dinner and pick your part of the world to go at. But in 1910, I don't think it was like that way so much, right? This is about sharing recipes, almost probably within families and like local friend groups, and what was used, right? Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so this came actually from a failed attempt. What I wanted to do first was visualizing somehow the diversity, the food diversity of New York City. I was like, oh, let me go and find some good data set that tells me where each very, very quintessential New York City food origin comes actually from. Because you got bagels that come from Poland originally, you got a lot of amazing Jewish food, you got food from area, of course, Italo-American food. So one of the big questions was like, would I class that as American food? Would I class it as Italian food? There's no such a thing as food that only comes from a place. Food
Yeah.
evolves with our culture, evolves with the movement of human beings, and that's really fascinating. So that's partly why I failed that attempt. I didn't find a good source that I could use with reliable enough data. And so I pivoted and found this book. It's the copyright is expired, so you can download the text. I think I got it from the Internet Archive actually in TXT form. And this used to be like a very very beloved book by mostly women in New England in the early 1900s. and it contains a lot of recipes, mostly done with a lot of butter and sugar, as you can imagine, a lot of meat as well. So
Eggs. We
not
got a lot of
particularly
eggs, a lot of sugar, a lot of butter. Okay.
not particularly healthy, so to say, but I'm sure it was delicious stuff. It's
Yeah.
funky because some of the recipes are like just pick 1 cup of flour, 2 cups of sugar, throw them together, and you got the dough. Like it's very, very non-detailed.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would fail at them very, very easily. So yeah, this is just showing it's half heat mapped because the other half will be exactly the same. And so, given a bunch of ingredients, the ones that are mostly mentioned in this book, the ones with the highest frequency, how often they are coupled up together in these recipes. So, eggs and sugar, eggs and butter, they go very well together. But then there's some funky combinations like pepper and sugar. So if you look at this, like the white cells obviously are stuff that I didn't find any occurrence.
Yeah,
But
there's some that have no overlap, right? Like baking
yeah,
powder and parsley, which
yeah,
seems
well,
right. That seems fair,
but there's some that you wouldn't think about it. It might be due. So what I've done, I had to the text is comes from an OCR rendering of the image
Okay.
originally. So it was utility.
Hmm.
So there's some errors, some OCR errors, and also I had to go through like manually some of the words that were dubious. I had to manually check them as well. So I'm sure
Yeah.
that's mistakes. Plus, there might be my mistakes as well. But yeah, I don't think it tells you something that you wouldn't expect. But it was just another interesting and satisfying thing to do. I read the
Yeah.
whole book, by the way. It was good fun.
Amazing. Yeah, this is a really, really nice one. All right.
Yeah.
This one may be my favorite, honestly, is the music of the 80s,
Oh, are
you know?
you vintage like I am? I love the 80s. So
Yes. Yeah. This is my middle school and early high school time. So that's an important music time of
the
the
best
life.
decade, honestly, for music, I'm sure.
It really
Um,
was good. I mean, 99 Loose Balloons, come on.
exactly. So yeah, this is taking Spotify data. So I was using actually Spotify data from the API. And for each of the decades in the 80s, from 1980 to 1989, take the top tracks as per the Spotify popularity. So this popularity is a measure of how much the track is listened to today. So obviously
Hmm.
this is timely data. If I were to do this today, the data might be different. But this tells you, like the popularity ending is a number from 0 to 100. So on the x-axis in decreasing order, you can see that there's some tracks which still are very much listened to today. They're very popular. Toto, this might be Toto Africa, 1982,
Yeah.
on the third
I was
row.
just thinking Toto Africa, or maybe
I think,
the Weezer cover of Africa is just so good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great song. So
I heard it yesterday, I think.
yeah, I probably heard it every day because I got my favorite playlists are from the 80s. I am that predictable. So yeah, each bubble is a song, and the color indicates the genre. So
Right.
there's a bunch of new wave, that's the yellow ones. There's lots of rock, some pop. I guess Madonna pops up at some point.
Got some
Queen,
reggae.
there's a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah,
Tesla. Yeah. Amazing. And then it ends with sliding into the 90s, where you got your Pearl
yeah.
Jam and your Soundgarden and all those things that
And you
really
got
just
some hip hop as
changed
well
it.
that starts to pop up at the end of the
That's
80s.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Very
So
cool. All
in
right.
the writing for this, I created a playlist of all of these songs. It's on YouTube. It's linked, so if people want to check it out.
That was pretty, yeah, that'd be fun.
It took me
Yeah,
more to
really.
do the playlist than to do the card. So
But now you have the playlist. Anytime you're feeling nostalgic, you can just turn it
yeah,
on.
exactly. I'm sorted.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. This on to the last one. That is the wrong direction. There we go. The
Yeah,
last
so
one is climate change and all that kind of stuff. Uh, a tough topic, but important as well, right?
yes, as I said, I care about this, and I try to study a little bit of climate science as well. I just want to learn a little bit more beyond the obvious things. So this is also updated. I did this in 2022. it's showing the so-called the temperature anomaly, which is year by year, what's the difference of the average global temperature that year with the average of of a certain period, 1951 to 1980. With respect to the mean of that period, this is an actual metric that is used. So this data comes from NASA, but there's plenty of data sets that you could use that report the same exact data. So you can see a clear, none of this is surprising. You can see a clearly upward trend. That's the red line is the actual numbers, and the blue line is a smoothest, like kind of a running average. And indicated in black, in writing, I just put some of the most important conferences related to climate that happened, like COPs mostly, that happened that year. So that tells you that we are not doing enough. And grim topic, but I got a set of just dedicated to climate. I'd like to learn more.
Yeah, it is tough, isn't it? I think two things. I think one, good pictures that tell the story in compelling ways, like this one, they could make a difference, right? So, if you just see the red line, it's like, well, see, look, it went down. It went down that year. So this is look, it's going down. Could it just keep like, but look, if we smooth it, if we just smooth it, here you see.
The typical
and also,
reason,
and I also think this is not really a technical problem. It's somewhat, I think it's more a political problem.
It's a political problem. It's also a data literacy problem, like how to use the data in the context. So this is a very silly example of all of this. Like there's much more difficult metrics to understand about climate because it's a complex science. I'm a physicist, and I still have to study if I want to really understand something statistics from the core. But cherry picking data and not looking at the trend is probably the most the easiest mistakes, or also the mistake that is done in bad faith, as you were saying, for political reasons to push some agenda. But it is an undeniable truth that the earth is warming. So it's a fact.
Yeah, well, I called it a political problem, but I think you might be right also that it's a literacy problem, because if everybody agreed that it was the problem, then the politics of it would be easier. You know what I mean? If you understood the data better. All right. This is really cool. And, comments out there is like, this is great work, much more engaging than standard software generated plot. And I agree. And that's why I wanted to feature just a portion of your work here. So let's close things up. I know you're on a tight schedule here at the end of this conversation, but just, encourage people to go check out your work. They can see more of it over at Data Doodling. I posted at the top of the live chat, the second message down has links to both your newsletter that you can sign up to get and your website where you can RSS your way to these things as well. Quickly tell people about how they can get more of this if they're interested.
Yeah, so I got a button-down newsletter. It's free. I don't plan on monetizing any of this. And I also got a blog. It's on GitHub pages. So there's an RSS feed if you're not into giving your email. Even the button down, you can follow by RSS. It's mostly this kind of stuff I write about, but I also write more technical posts about Python or about AI. I work in AI, so maybe some explorations about machine learning techniques, always or often with some doodles as well. So that's my signature. So hoping that people like them. But sign up there if you're so inclined.
Yeah, well, Martina, thanks for coming on the channel here and sharing this with everyone. I can see from the comments that people are really appreciating your work. So nicely done.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I couldn't answer all the questions. Feel free. You can also get in touch with me, by the way, on the newsletter. There's like links and stuff. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.